The night settles gently over the wide desert plains where the old Silk Road begins its slow curve toward distant horizons. The air is cool and still, and the dunes stretch out in long quiet waves. A faint glow comes from a few low lanterns resting near a small caravan encampment. Their light touches the sand with soft amber tones. Nothing moves quickly here. Every sound, every breeze, every shifting grain of sand settles into a calm rhythm that seems older than memory. A few camels stand together near the center of the camp. Their shapes are soft against the dim sky, and the faint moonlight outlines their tall forms. They breathe slowly, releasing gentle clouds of warm air that drift upward and fade. Each animal carries simple packs filled with silk bundles, spices, and small tools. Their loads are modest, chosen for a quiet journey rather than a hurried one. Near the camels, a traveler sits cross-legged on a woven carpet. His cloak is wrapped loosely around him, and his hands rest calmly on his knees. He gazes toward the horizon where the last traces of daylight have dissolved into a deep blue that blends smoothly with the desert floor. He is not waiting for anything in particular. He is letting the night arrive in its own time, the way the Silk Road always taught its travelers to wait. The fire at the center of the encampment has burned down to a soft bed of embers. A few sparks rise now and then, drifting up before fading in the air. Their glow lights the faces of the travelers who sit nearby, quiet and relaxed. Some lean back on cushions, eyes half closed. Others trace gentle patterns in the sand. No one speaks. Words would feel too heavy here. The desert prefers silence, and the travelers honor that silence with stillness. A small pot rests near the embers. Steam rises slowly from its spout. The faint scent of herbs floats into the air, blending with the natural smell of sand and cool night wind. One of the travelers pours the warm drink into a clay cup and passes it to another. The cup moves from hand to hand, each person taking a small sip. The warmth settles into their bodies, easing the tiredness of the long day. A tent stands nearby with its entrance open. Inside, rolled maps rest on a low table. They show winding paths across deserts, mountains, and plains. The lines are soft and faded, drawn by hands that traveled these same roads long before. A small lantern glows in one corner, its flame steady and quiet. The air inside the tent feels warmer, filled with the faint scent of old paper and ink. The night deepens slowly. A thin veil of clouds drifts across the sky, softening the stars. The desert wind moves just enough to stir the sand near the edges of the camp. A gentle rhythm forms as grains shift and settle. It feels like the land itself is breathing with the travelers. Far beyond the camp, the dunes rise and fall in long curves. Their surfaces glow faintly under the moonlight. Each ridge and valley blend smoothly into the next, giving the desert a calm and endless shape. There is no sense of urgency. The road that lies ahead is long, but it does not demand haste. It asks only for patience and steady steps. One traveler stands and walks a short distance away from the camp. His footsteps are soft, barely disturbing the sand. He lifts his eyes to the sky. A single bright star shines through a break in the clouds. Its light is cool and steady. For a moment, he follows its position, imagining the path it marks across the heavens. Travelers have long used stars to guide them. Tonight, he simply watches, letting the quiet light settle his thoughts. When he returns to the camp, the embers glow more softly. A few travelers have already slipped into sleep on their carpets. Their breathing matches the slow rhythm of the desert night. Those who remain awake sit in peaceful silence, taking in the calm. The faint crackle of the embers is the only sound. The traveler who had walked away lowers himself onto a cushion. He draws his cloak closer around his shoulders. His eyes drift toward the distant darkness where the old Silk Road disappears among the dunes. He feels no need to imagine the journey ahead. It will unfold slowly, step by step, morning by morning, the way it always has. A soft breeze sweeps across the camp. It brushes against the tents and moves gently through the sparse bushes that dot the landscape. The lantern flames flicker but remain steady. The night is settled and calm, holding the travelers in a quiet embrace. Somewhere in the camp, a camel shifts its weight and lets out a low, restful sound. The noise fades quickly into the still air. The embers glow, the lanterns hum faintly, and the desert sky stretches wide and peaceful above the scene. Nothing more is needed. The journey has begun, not with motion, but with rest. The Silk Road waits, patient and silent, ready to guide the travelers when dawn returns with its soft light. For now, the night is enough. The desert is enough. The quiet is enough. Through the first light of dawn. The first light of dawn moves slowly across the desert, touching the tops of the dunes with a pale glow that spreads gently over the landscape. The air is cool and still, carrying the soft scent of sand warmed only slightly by the coming day. The sky shifts from deep blue to a muted gray, then to a faint amber that grows brighter without any rush. The desert wakes in the same calm rhythm in which it sleeps. The travelers rise one by one, not to any sound or command, but to the natural easing of night into morning. A few sit quietly near the embers of the fire, warming their hands around small clay cups filled again with herbal tea. The steam rises slowly into the cool air, drifting in thin, delicate trails that disappear before reaching the height of a lantern flame. A camel kneels near the edge of the camp while another stands still with its long neck angled toward the horizon. Their movements are gentle, almost meditative. They seem to understand the nature of this slow journey, one that does not measure distance in haste, but in steady breaths and quiet steps. Their shadows stretch across the sand as the sun climbs higher, though the light remains soft, filtered by thin clouds gathering in the sky. The traveler who studied the stars the night before adjusts the folds of his cloak and checks the straps on the nearest pack. He does not hurry. He moves with the kind of deliberate calm that comes only from long days on the road. His hands brush lightly over the silk bundles, making sure they rest in balanced positions. Beside him, a companion ties a rope around a small box containing dried fruits and herbs for the journey. A faint breeze drifts through the camp, carrying the smell of distant earth and dry grass. It brushes against the tents, making the fabric sway in a slow, natural motion. The lanterns that burn through the night are dim now, their flames small but steady. One by one, they are gently extinguished, though a few are left glowing inside the tents to keep the soft morning light from becoming too bright. When the travelers are ready, the caravan begins to move. The first steps are unhurried. Sand shifts under their feet in quiet patterns, and the camels follow the path without guidance, as if they remember the way through some ancient instinct. The old Silk Road appears before them as a faint line traced across the dunes, worn by countless journeys yet still soft enough to blend into the desert. As the caravan walks, the light strengthens little by little. The dunes take on soft gold tones. Their curves look smooth and gentle, as though shaped not by wind alone but by the slow passing of centuries. Shadows stretch along their slopes, creating patterns that resemble waves on a quiet sea. After some time, the group pauses near a small rise in the terrain. From here, the desert extends far into the distance, meeting the sky at a hazy line where the colors merge. A caravanserai stands not far ahead. Its stone walls rise from the sand with a calm presence, weathered but strong. Travelers from many lands have rested there. Some stayed for a night, others for longer, letting the slow rhythm of the Silk Road settle into their bones. Reaching the caravanserai, they step through its wide entrance. The courtyard inside is shaded and cool. Water trickles from a stone basin into a shallow pool. The sound is soft and soothing. A few birds rest on the edges of the roof, their wings folded neatly. They appear unbothered by the presence of visitors, as if they too are part of the quiet life of the road. The travelers place their belongings near the wall and take their seats on low cushions arranged around the courtyard. A keeper of the caravanserai brings warm water for washing hands and faces. The water is scented with a mild herb that leaves a calming aroma on the skin. After the long night in the desert, the simple act of cleansing feels peaceful and grounding. A tray of flat bread and dried figs is placed before them. The bread is soft and warm. The figs are sweet and rich in flavor. They eat slowly, savoring each bite. Meals on the Silk Road are not hurried. Food is shared in quiet appreciation, with small gestures and nods taking the place of conversation. Inside one of the rooms, the air is cool and shaded. Woven rugs cover the stone floor, and silk drapes soften the light that filters through small openings in the wall. A few travelers step inside to rest. They set their packs down near the entrance and lie back on the cushions. The silence here is gentle, with only the faint whisper of wind passing through the courtyard. After some time, the caravan continues its journey. The day has grown warmer, though the heat remains mild under the thin veil of clouds. The travelers walk in a slow line, their footsteps steady and quiet. Now and then, they pass small clusters of dry shrubs or the remains of abandoned stone markers that once helped guide travelers through the vast desert. A soft hum rises from the shifting sand as the breeze flows across its surface. The sound is subtle, almost musical. It blends with the steady rhythm of the caravan, creating a harmony that follows them over each dune. These gentle sounds of the desert have accompanied countless travelers over the centuries. As midday approaches, they reach a slight depression in the land where a few scattered trees grow. Their branches offer thin, dappled shade. The group settles there, letting the camels rest and graze lightly on sparse vegetation. The travelers sit on the ground or lean against their packs. Some close their eyes. Others gaze quietly at the wide landscape, letting its calm presence wash over them. Time moves slowly in this part of the world. Hours pass like drifting clouds. The desert does not rush, and the travelers do not resist its pace. They let themselves fall into the rhythm of the land. When the heat softens again, they rise and continue along the old road. The afternoon light takes on a more muted tone, wrapping the dunes and rocks in gentle shadows that stretch long and soft. The horizon glows with a pale gold that fades into blue. By the time the sun begins to lower, the caravan finds a new place to rest. They form a small circle with their tents and unpack what they need for the night. The embers will glow again soon. The herbal tea will warm their hands. The camels will settle quietly beside them. And the Silk Road will cradle them once more in its slow, timeless rhythm. The quiet hours between afternoon and dusk. The afternoon stretches gently across the desert as the caravan settles into its slow rhythm once more. The light is softer now, no longer bright but warm in a calm, diffused way. Thin clouds drift lazily across the sky, spreading a pale veil that cools both land and air. The sand takes on muted tones of gold and rose, shifting quietly under the wandering breeze. Nothing in this place rushes. Even the sun seems to move at a thoughtful pace, as if guiding the travelers with careful patience. The camels sway with steady grace as they walk. Their footsteps create small depressions that fade gradually as loose sand slips back into place. A few birds circle overhead for a moment before gliding away toward distant hills. Their presence is brief and gentle, like passing thoughts in a quiet mind. The travelers watch them with peaceful expressions, appreciating the small sign of life in the vast openness of the desert. The road continues forward in a subtle curve. It is not a harsh line etched into the land, but a soft trail shaped by countless journeys that came before. Some parts appear faint, nearly dissolved into the dunes. Other sections stand out more clearly, lined with scattered stones or dried grasses. Each turn invites slow attention, encouraging the caravan to remain present rather than eager for what lies ahead. As the afternoon drifts on, the group approaches a rocky outcrop rising gently from the sand. The stones are smooth and warm, worn down by wind over centuries. A few patches of hardy vegetation cling to their sheltered sides, offering small bursts of muted green. The caravan pauses here for a short rest. The camels kneel and lower their long necks as the travelers step into the shade cast by the rocks. In this space, the desert feels slightly different. The rocks create a small echo, carrying the faint sounds of clinking metal or shifting sand. The breeze flows around the stones in soft, swirling currents. One traveler sits with his back against the warm surface, feeling the gentle heat radiate through the fabric of his cloak. Another opens a leather pouch to take out dried apricots. Their sweet scent blends faintly with the dry smell of the rocks. Farther up the outcrop, a small pool formed by recent rains lies in a shallow hollow. The water is clear and still, reflecting the sky in soft colors. A few birds land near its edge, dipping their beaks silently before lifting away again. The travelers approach the pool with quiet steps, careful not to disturb the peaceful scene. They cup their hands to collect a small amount of water and sprinkle it over their faces. The cool droplets feel refreshing and grounding. After a while, they rise and continue along the road. The light has shifted slightly, taking on deeper tones. The dunes ahead appear more layered, their soft curves forming long shadows that stretch toward the east. The caravan walks into these shadows, letting their coolness settle around them as the day moves gently toward dusk. Eventually they reach a region where the land becomes flatter. Small clusters of grasses sway in the breeze, forming delicate patterns on the sand. These grasses mark the beginning of a fertile plain that lies between two distant mountain ranges. The caravan follows the plain at its northern edge, moving along a narrow path shaped by generations of travelers. In the distance stands a group of ancient markers made of stacked stones. They tilt slightly, worn by time, yet still stand firm enough to guide those who pass. The travelers pause to admire them. The markers hold no inscriptions now, but they carry a quiet presence that feels familiar and reassuring. They remind everyone that they are part of a long lineage of people who walk these same roads with the same patient steps. The air grows cooler as the sun lowers further. A soft glow settles across the plain, making the grasses shimmer with gentle hints of silver. The camels move with relaxed ease, their silhouettes blending with the lengthening shadows. The travelers walk in comfortable silence, their breath slow and steady. There is no rush to find a place for the night. The land will reveal its resting point in time. A small grove of trees appears ahead. Their branches reach outward in wide arcs, offering shelter from the evening breeze. Beneath them, the ground is firm and slightly raised, providing a natural resting place. The caravan moves toward the grove with a sense of quiet relief. The trees stand like peaceful guardians along the road, their leaves rustling softly in the wind. The travelers begin to unpack their supplies. They spread woven mats on the ground and set down their small wooden bowls. One traveler prepares a warm drink by heating water over a tiny ember pot. The steam rises in thin streams, carrying the scent of dried mint. Another arranges cushions where the group will sit during the evening. Everything is done slowly and with care. As they rest under the trees, the sun sinks lower behind the dunes. Its last rays filter through the leaves in soft bands of orange and pale gold. The air becomes even cooler. A few camels lower themselves to the ground, folding their legs beneath them with measured grace. Their breathing deepens into a slow, calm rhythm. The travelers eat a simple meal of flat bread, dates, and nuts. They share the food quietly, passing the bowls with gentle gestures. When the meal is finished, they lean back and watch the sky change color. The blue deepens, and a thin band of purple forms near the horizon. A few early stars begin to show. The breeze carries the soft sound of shifting leaves. The desert, which had felt wide and open during the day, now feels intimate and sheltered. The grove becomes a small world of its own, wrapped in gentle sounds and quiet light. The travelers speak little. They allow the calm to settle fully around them. As darkness approaches, the group prepares for the night. A few lanterns are lit, their glow warm and steady. The light reflects on the tree trunks and dances lightly on the sand. The camels shuffle slightly, settling more comfortably. The travelers lie back on their cushions and watch the stars emerge one by one. The old silk road stretches forward into the night, but for now there is only rest, only quiet, and only the soft promise of another slow journey in the morning. Night beneath the stars of the Silk Road. Night settles gently over the grove as the last traces of daylight fade behind the distant dunes. The air cools quickly, carrying a soft stillness that wraps itself around the travelers like a calm embrace. The lanterns they lit earlier now glow with a quiet steadiness, their warm light resting on the trunks of the trees and falling in gentle circles across the sand. Nothing disturbs the moment. The desert breathes slowly, and the grove breathes with it. The travelers lie on their cushions or sit with their backs against the trees. Their movements are unhurried. Some sip the last of the warm mint drink, letting the heat steady their breath. Others gaze upward, watching the sky change from a deep violet to a shade of calm indigo. One by one, stars appear, tiny at first, then brighter as the darkness gathers fully. They scatter across the heavens in soft clusters, like grains of pale sand drifting through an endless sea. The camels settle quietly near the edge of the grove. They fold their legs beneath them and lower their long necks, their breath slow and even. A few turn their heads toward the sound of rustling leaves, but they make no noise. Their silhouettes merge with the shadows. In the faint lantern glow, the animals appear calm and content, their presence grounding the peaceful atmosphere of the night. A traveler sitting near the center of the grove opens a small leather pouch and takes out a polished wooden flute. He holds it gently, turning it in his hands as if feeling its weight and texture. After a moment, he lifts it to his lips and plays a single note. The sound is soft and low. It drifts into the cool night air like a slow breeze. Another note follows, then another, forming a quiet melody that blends perfectly with the gentle rustling of the trees. The music is not loud or complex. It is simple, meant to soothe rather than to impress. The tune rises and falls in calm waves, echoing the rhythm of the journey itself. The other travelers listen in stillness. Some close their eyes. Others watch the stars. The melody winds its way through the grove, touches the camels, brushes the edges of the dunes, and fades softly into the distance. When the flute falls silent, the grove feels even more peaceful than before. The night holds its breath for a moment, as if appreciating the music, then releases it in a slow whisper of wind. The branches sway gently. A few dried leaves drift to the ground, landing without a sound. A traveler near the lantern adjusts the wick to keep the flame steady. The light brightens slightly, illuminating the woven patterns of the cushions. The colors appear muted in the soft glow, warm enough to feel comforting. Another traveler adds a small piece of wood to a tiny ember pot. The flame flickers, sending thin wisps of warm air upward. The faintest sparks lift into the night before fading out. Their brief glow adds a gentle shimmer to the edges of the grove. One of the travelers takes out a worn scroll from his pack. He unrolls it slowly on his lap. The writing is faded but still visible. It contains a short passage describing the lands that lie ahead on the Silk Road, small villages surrounded by fields of barley, narrow valleys where rivers run quietly, and mountain passes that rise into clouds before descending into wide open plains. The traveler reads silently, letting each description settle in his mind like a peaceful dream. Another traveler notices the scroll and leans closer. He studies the lines of text with calm curiosity. They do not speak. The quiet of the night makes words unnecessary. The simple act of sharing the scroll feels enough, a reminder that every traveler carries both memories and expectations, all held lightly during the long journey. As the night deepens, the temperature drops a little more. The travelers wrap their cloaks around their shoulders. Their breaths form small clouds that drift into the air before fading. The lantern flames sway gently with each passing breeze, but they remain steady. The grove stays warm enough, sheltered by the trees and the slow pulse of the desert. A few stars appear brighter than the rest. One traveler raises his hand, tracing a faint line from one star to another. He does not name them aloud. Instead, he follows their pattern with his eyes, imagining the stories that ancient travelers once told. Those stories often spoke of guidance, patience, and the calm that comes from walking long roads without urgency. The stars served as companions, silent and constant. The night continues to unfold in quiet layers. From somewhere near the dunes, a soft-chested desert fox lets out a faint call. The sound is gentle, more like a sigh than a cry. It echoes briefly and disappears. The travelers barely move. They are at ease with the desert, and the desert is at ease with them. After some time, one of the camels rises and shifts its position, settling down again with a soft sigh. The sand beneath it moves in smooth patterns, forming a shallow hollow for its body. The movement stirs no alarm. It is simply part of the natural rhythm of the night. A traveler stirs the ember pot lightly, coaxing a little more warmth into the air. The glow reflects on his hands, softening their outlines. He sits back and watches the remaining sparks drift upward in slow motion. They fade at the height of the lantern light, then vanish into the darkness without a trace. Gradually, the travelers begin to rest more fully. Some lie back on their cushions, turning their faces toward the stars. Others curl their legs beneath them and close their eyes. The gentle sounds of the grove continue, the rustling of leaves, the faint hum of the breeze, the low breathing of camels, and the quiet settling of sand. No one speaks. The night feels complete without words. The old Silk Road stretches beyond the grove, winding into lands that cannot yet be seen. But tonight, the journey pauses. The grove holds the travelers with patient stillness. The sky glows softly with distant starlight. The earth is cool and steady beneath their morning mist over the desert plain. Dawn approaches slowly, touching the sky with a pale band of muted gold that spreads across the horizon with gentle hesitation. The grove where the travelers rested remains quiet, its trees standing still as if reluctant to release the calm of the night. A thin mist settles close to the ground, drifting in soft layers that move quietly between the trunks and across the sand. The air is cool and soothing, carrying the scent of dew mixed with the faint aroma of dried leaves and warm earth. The first sounds of the morning are subtle. A camel shifts its weight and exhales steadily, sending a small cloud of warm breath into the cool air. A branch sways slightly, causing one or two dry leaves to land softly on the cushions below. The lantern flames, left low through the night, flicker gently before being extinguished. The grove rests in a peaceful grey light, neither fully dark nor fully bright. One traveler rises slowly, stretching his arms before pulling his cloak tighter around his shoulders. He walks a few steps beyond the grove and gazes across the plain. The mist floats in delicate sheets over the sand, moving in slow waves that catch the soft light of dawn. The landscape appears dreamlike, as if wrapped in a thin veil meant to keep the world quiet a little longer. He watches without urgency, letting the waking desert reveal itself piece by piece. Another traveler brings out a small clay pot and fills it with water drawn from a leather container. He sets it over a tiny ember bowl and waits patiently for the steam to rise. The warmth spreads slowly through the grove, carrying the familiar scent of dried herbs. One by one, the others wake and sit up on their cushions. Their movements are gentle, shaped by the unhurried rhythm that the Silk Road teaches all who walk it. The tea is poured into small cups. The travelers wrap their hands around them, welcoming the warmth. The mist curls around their feet, drifting past as if it too is waking in its own quiet way. The camels remain calm, their long necks rising and falling in slow arcs. A few blink lazily at the travelers, their steady gazes mirroring the peaceful tone of the morning. When the light grows stronger, the grove begins to show more detail. The bark on the trees becomes clearer, marked by thin lines and smooth curves. The sand reveals faint patterns left by the wind during the night. Small clusters of dried grass glisten with droplets of moisture that catch the light in subtle sparkles before sliding quietly off the blades. The world feels refreshed, as if holding its breath before taking the first step into a new day. The travelers begin to pack their belongings. They fold their cushions, roll their woven mats, and secure their packs with leather straps. The camels rise one by one with slow, deliberate movements. Their bodies sway gently as they prepare to walk. The sound of their steps against the sand is soft and steady, blending with the whisper of the morning breeze. Before leaving the grove, the travelers pause for a brief moment. They breathe in the cool air, letting the quiet linger a little longer. The grove had sheltered them through the night. It had given them a place where the desert felt intimate and protective. In return, they leave it undisturbed, as if their presence had been nothing more than a passing dream. The caravan moves out onto the plain. The mist thins gradually around them, parting like a slow curtain as they walk. The dunes ahead rise in gentle slopes, their surfaces glowing with soft morning light. The path of the Silk Road lies faintly across the sand, guiding the travelers eastward. The road appears humble, yet it holds the memory of countless journeys, each one leaving its trace in the quiet rhythm of the land. As they walk, the mist continues to lift, revealing more of the landscape. Low shrubs dot the plain, their branches catching droplets of dew that shine briefly before drying. The scent of the desert changes with each step, shifting from damp earth to warm sand as the sun climbs higher. The travelers breathe in these subtle changes. The air feels serene, shaped by the slow awakening of the day. After some distance, the caravan reaches a gentle rise in the ground. From the top, they can see a long stretch of the Silk Road winding toward distant hills. The hills appear softened by the remaining mist, their outlines blurred and gentle. The travelers pause to take in the view. The silence of the morning extends far across the plains, as if inviting them to move forward with measured calm. They continue walking until they reach a narrow valley where low stone formations rise from the ground in uneven shapes. The stones cast faint shadows that stretch along the sand. A small sheltered space lies between two of the larger stones. The travelers choose this spot for a brief rest. They set down their packs and allow the camels to graze on sparse patches of dry vegetation. One traveler takes out a small scroll and unrolls it carefully. The writing describes ancient trade routes and the various paths that merge and diverge along the Silk Road. The words are simple and thoughtful, offering guidance rather than instruction. The reader traces one of the paths with his finger, following its curve through mountains, valleys, and plains. The map feels alive, connected to the very ground they walk upon. Another traveler sits near the stones and listens. The valley carries sound in a gentle way. The soft movement of sand, the quiet steps of camels, and the distant whisper of wind all blend into a single soothing tone. He closes his eyes and lets the sound settle around him. The desert feels like a companion, calm and steady. The rest lasts only long enough to restore energy. When they rise again, the sun has climbed higher but remains gentle behind a thin layer of clouds. The travelers adjust their cloaks and tighten the straps on their packs. The camels stand ready, their breaths deep and even. They begin moving once more, following the curve of the valley until it opens back into the wide plains. The mist is gone now, replaced by soft light that glows across the sand. The Silk Road stretches before them, patient and timeless. The day will unfold in slow steps, as it always does. And the travelers, wrapped in the calm rhythm of the desert, continue their quiet journey along the ancient path. Through the quiet valley of old echoes. The sun remains hidden behind a soft layer of drifting clouds as the caravan continues its slow path across the plains. The light is gentle, almost silvery, spreading evenly across the landscape without any harsh glare. The air carries a cool stillness that lingers from the morning mist, creating a sense of calm that settles deep into the travelers' movements. Their steps form a steady rhythm against the sand, rising and falling like the quiet pulse of the desert itself. Ahead, the land begins to shift. The wide open plain narrows gradually into a long valley flanked by smooth rock walls. These walls rise gently, not imposing, but graceful, shaped by wind over the passage of many seasons. Their surfaces are pale and softly textured, reflecting the muted sunlight in delicate shades of grey and beige. As the caravan enters the valley, the sound of the wind changes. It becomes a soft hum, passing through narrow spaces in a way that makes the valley feel both sheltered and alive. The sand here is finer, almost silky. It gathers in gentle waves along the sides of the valley, forming ridges that appear untouched. Each step the travelers take leaves a clear mark that remains undisturbed for several moments before the light breeze smooths the edges. The camels walk calmly, their footsteps deeper and more pronounced than those of the travelers. Their breathing echoes faintly in the valley, creating a slow, steady rhythm that blends with the soft hum of the wind. Along the rock walls, faint carvings appear. At first they seem like natural lines, shaped by time, but as the travelers move closer, the carvings become clearer. They depict simple scenes of daily life, people walking with baskets, animals resting under trees, and travelers leading caravans much like the one moving through the valley now. The carvings are worn, their edges softened by centuries of wind and sand. Yet they hold a gentle presence, a reminder that many lives passed through this place long before. One traveler reaches out and places his hand lightly on the rock. The surface feels cool and smooth. He traces one of the carvings with careful fingers, following the outline of a figure that appears to be holding a small bundle. The carving is faint, but its meaning feels calm and familiar. The valley has held these images for generations, preserving memories in the quiet way that stone often does. He steps back and continues walking, leaving the carving to rest again in the soft light. Further along the valley, a cluster of rounded stones lies partially buried in the sand. Their shapes suggest they were once part of a small structure, perhaps a resting shelter or a roadside marker. The travelers pause near the stones. One kneels and brushes sand away from the top of a flat slab. Beneath the sand, faint lines form a pattern that might have once been a map or a symbol. The meaning is unclear, but the presence of the stone feels peaceful. It carries the weight of time without any demand for interpretation. As they rest, the travelers take out their water flasks and drink slowly. The water is cool and refreshing, and the silence of the valley enhances the sense of calm that spreads through their bodies. They sit on the sand or lean against the low rocks. The valley feels like a long, sheltered breath, a place where the world narrows just enough for the mind to settle. When they rise again, the caravan resumes its slow pace. The valley deepens, and the light becomes even more diffused. The clouds above spread evenly across the sky, creating a soft brightness without shadows. The rock walls curve gently, guiding the travelers through a landscape that feels both ancient and untouched. At one point, the valley widens slightly, revealing a small hollow where a few desert plants grow. Their leaves are delicate, pale green, shaped by the quiet struggle of life in places where water is rare. A thin trickle of moisture clings to the base of one plant, hinting at a hidden spring deep beneath the sand. The travelers kneel near the plants and observe their subtle resilience. Even in the calmest places, life persists with quiet determination. A soft breeze moves through the hollow, carrying the faint scent of warm earth. It rustles the thin leaves of the plants and brushes gently against the travelers' cloaks. They breathe in the mild fragrance and continue onward, stepping back into the steady rhythm of the road. The valley narrows again as they move deeper. The walls rise slightly higher, though they remain smooth and calm. The hum of the wind grows softer, turning into a low whisper that drifts around the travelers like a comforting presence. The desert here feels almost like a companion, guiding them with subtle sounds and gentle movements. After some distance, a natural arch appears. The stone has been shaped by many seasons of wind, forming a graceful curve that stands over the path. The travelers walk beneath it, noticing how the sound changes under the arch. The wind echoes faintly, creating a deep, soft tone that lasts only a moment before fading back into silence. They pause briefly to appreciate the calm resonance, then continue forward. Beyond the arch, the valley floor becomes cooler underfoot. The sand is mixed with patches of smooth stone, worn flat by centuries of passage. The footsteps of the caravan create a quiet, rhythmic sound that blends with the valley's natural echo. The camels walk with steady certainty, their long shadows stretching behind them in the diffused afternoon light. Eventually, the valley opens into a wider space where the rock walls form a shallow bowl. In the center stands a single tall stone, weathered but upright. The surface of the stone carries faint markings that might once have been writing. The travelers gather around it for a moment, observing the quiet presence it holds. No one attempts to interpret the markings. The stone stands as a peaceful reminder that the Silk Road has always been a place where stories pass silently from one generation to the next. The travelers rest near the tall stone. They set down their packs and allow the camels to kneel. A few sit on the sand with their legs crossed, gazing at the muted sky above. The valley holds a pleasant coolness, embracing them with gentle stillness. It feels like a place meant for pause, a natural resting point along the ancient road. When they rise again to continue the journey, the sun has begun its slow descent, though its light remains soft behind the veil of clouds. The valley stretches onward, guiding the caravan toward distant lands yet unseen. The travelers follow with quiet steps, carrying with them the calm gathered from the sheltered hollow and the soft hum of the wind. The Silk Road continues, patient and unhurried, offering its timeless rhythm to all who walk its gentle path. The caravanserai beneath the softening sky. The valley begins to widen once more as the afternoon light turns into a quiet haze that settles gently over the land. The travelers walk in unhurried steps, letting the calm air guide their pace. The clouds above shift into thin shapes, drifting slowly across the sky like soft threads pulled through pale fabric. Their shadows fall lightly over the sand, dimming and brightening in a rhythm that feels almost like breathing. Ahead, the faint outline of a structure emerges from the muted horizon. At first it appears as little more than a pattern of straight edges against the natural curves of the land. But as the caravan moves closer, the shape becomes clearer. It is a caravanserai, built of worn stone and surrounded by low walls that have softened with age. Its presence feels steady and welcoming, like a resting palm extended toward travelers who have walked a long, quiet path. The entrance of the caravanserai faces the open valley. Two tall pillars stand on either side, their surfaces marked by countless seasons of wind and sand. The gate between them is simple but sturdy. Near the top, a narrow slit allows light to pass through in a soft beam that stretches across the ground. The beam shifts slightly as the clouds move, creating a peaceful movement that guides the travelers inward. Inside the courtyard, the air feels cooler. The stone walls hold the memory of shade, and the ground beneath them carries the smooth texture of many footsteps. A few low trees grow near the corners of the courtyard, their leaves rustling gently whenever a breeze flows through. The sound is soft, like distant whispering that has no urgency. At the center lies a shallow pool of clear water. Its surface reflects the softening sky above, creating a mirror of muted color. The travelers set down their packs and shake the sand from their cloaks. A few camels kneel near the edges of the courtyard, folding their legs beneath them with calm precision. Their bodies sway slightly before settling into restful positions. The animals look comfortable here, as if they too recognize the caravanserai as a familiar pause along the long road. A caretaker emerges from one of the side rooms. He moves with a slow and measured grace, his steps barely disturbing the dust on the ground. His clothing is simple, and his face shows the kind of calm that comes from living in a place shaped entirely by the rhythm of travelers. He greets the caravan with a quiet nod and brings bowls of water for the camels. The animals drink steadily, their breath slow between each swallow. The travelers gather near the pool. Some sit on the low stone benches that circle it. Others stand and gaze at the reflection of the sky in the water. The colors shift gradually from pale gold to softened gray as the clouds thicken. Ripples form whenever a leaf falls into the pool or when the breeze touches the surface. Each ripple moves outward in slow rings until the water becomes still once more. One traveler dips his hand into the pool and lets the cool water run through his fingers. The sensation feels grounding, as though the weight of the day flows gently away. Another takes a small wooden cup and fills it, sipping the water with appreciation. Even simple moments feel meaningful in the quiet of the caravanserai. After some time, the caretaker lights a row of clay lamps along the walls. Their flames are small and steady. They cast warm circles of light across the courtyard, softening the fading daylight. Shadows gather gently beneath the trees and stretch across the ground in delicate patterns. The atmosphere becomes stiller, as if preparing for the peaceful hours of dusk. The travelers are offered a place to sit inside one of the shaded rooms. The walls there are cool to the touch, marked with simple designs. Woven rugs cover the floor, their colors faded into soft tones that blend easily with the dim light. A few cushions rest along the wall. The travelers sit or recline, letting their bodies relax after the long walk through the valley. A pot of warm soup is brought to them. Its scent is mild and comforting, filled with simple herbs. They eat slowly, each spoonful easing the quiet hunger gathered over the hours of walking. The meal is shared without conversation. In places like this, silence feels natural, even welcomed. The sounds of eating, the soft clink of wooden spoons against clay bowls, and the gentle movement of fabric create an atmosphere of peace. As the meal comes to an end, the sky outside deepens into a soft blue. The first faint stars appear, scattered lightly across the horizon. The lamps in the courtyard glow more warmly now, their light reflecting off the pool in delicate streaks. A traveler steps back outside to observe the scene. The evening air feels cooler against the skin. The desert is preparing for another night, and the caravanserai stands as a quiet refuge in the changing light. A few travelers stretch their legs by walking along the perimeter of the courtyard. Their footsteps form a slow rhythm on the stone ground. They pause occasionally to look up at the early stars. The sky holds a calm that seems to settle over the entire caravan. Even the camels rest more deeply, their long breaths rising and falling in gentle waves. One traveler sits near a lantern with a small piece of parchment spread across his lap. He sketches the outline of the caravanserai, adding faint details of the pillars and the pool. His strokes are slow and deliberate, shaped by the tranquility of the moment. The lantern light reflects softly on the parchment, giving the drawing a warm hue. Another traveler unrolls a small scroll containing a poem written by a wanderer of long ago. The traveler reads silently. The poem speaks of distant mountains, quiet rivers, and nights spent under the open sky. It describes the feeling of walking without haste and of finding peace in the steady rhythm of the road. The words match the traveler's own experiences, echoing their quiet journey. As dusk deepens into early night, the sky above the caravanserai becomes more vibrant. The stars appear clearer, shining with steady light. The courtyard glows with a mix of lantern light and soft starlight. The breeze drifts through, carrying a faint scent of warm stone and distant sand. The travelers begin to prepare for sleep. They lay their cushions near the walls and spread light blankets over themselves. Their bodies relax easily after the day's calm journey. Some gaze at the stars for a few moments longer, letting their minds settle into the stillness. Others close their eyes right away, allowing the peaceful atmosphere to carry them toward rest. The camels shift once more, then become still. The lantern flames flicker gently, but remain steady. The caretaker returns one last time to check on the travelers, offering a quiet nod before withdrawing again into the deeper rooms of the caravanserai. Night settles over the valley, soft and complete. The sounds grow even quieter. The travelers breathe slowly. The world outside grows dim and hushed. And the caravanserai, standing with its ancient calm, holds them safely as the long silk road continues its timeless rhythm beyond the walls. Leaving the caravanserai and entering the gentle foothills. Morning comes softly to the caravanserai. The first light touches the courtyard with a muted glow, warm enough to signal the arrival of a new day yet gentle enough not to disturb the quiet atmosphere that settled through the night. The pool at the center reflects the pale sky in blurred colors. Ripples form whenever a leaf drifts down or when a small breeze brushes the surface, then fade again into stillness. The caretakers move slowly through the courtyard, tending to lamps, sweeping light dust, and preparing warm water for the travelers. Their movements barely make a sound. The travelers sit up on their cushions. They take a moment before rising fully, letting their minds adjust to waking. The coolness of early morning lingers, but the calm of the night still rests over the caravanserai like a soft veil. One traveler breathes in the faint scent of stone warmed by dawn. Another takes a handful of water from the pool and splashes it gently over his face. The feeling is refreshing and grounding, helping him ease into the day without urgency. A simple meal is served: warm bread, a bowl of soft grains, and a few dried fruits. Steam rises from a pot of herbal tea, carrying a mild scent that blends with the morning air. The travelers drink slowly. Their footsteps and quiet gestures form the first rhythms of the day. No one rushes to pack. The Silk Road teaches patience, and the caravanserai encourages a pace that honors the stillness of the desert. When the travelers begin to prepare their belongings, they do so with careful movements. Blankets are folded, cushions rolled, and tools placed neatly inside their bags. The camels stand slowly, stretching their long necks before kneeling for the packs to be tied securely. Their breaths rise in warm clouds that disperse quickly into the morning air. The caretaker offers a final bowl of water for each camel and nods with gentle respect as the caravan prepares to depart. The travelers leave the caravanserai the same way they entered, quietly and without hurry. The morning light glows softly along the walls, revealing the texture of the stones. The open gate leads them back toward the valley, but instead of returning to the sands they walked the day before, they follow a path that curves upward toward a series of gentle foothills. The air feels slightly cooler here. The sound of their steps shifts as the ground becomes firmer beneath their feet. The hills rise slowly, shaped by wind and time. Their slopes are covered with patches of pale grass and small shrubs that sway in the breeze. The travelers walk single file, letting each step fall into the natural rhythm set by the land. The camels move steadily, their shadows stretching across the hillside as the sun climbs a little higher. From here, the valley behind them looks like a quiet sea of sand, muted and shimmering under the soft morning light. As the caravan ascends, the view widens. The plains stretch outward in long waves, broken only by the soft curve of distant dunes. The land appears peaceful and endless, shaped by the slow drift of wind and the steady steps of generations of travelers. The travelers pause near a rocky ledge and gaze out at this wide scene. The silence carries with it a deep sense of calm. Even the faint hum of the breeze feels like a gentle reminder that the world can be large without feeling overwhelming. Moving forward, the group enters a narrow path between two hills. The sides are made of smooth, pale rock, worn down over years of quiet change. Shadows fall here in soft layers, creating a cool passage that offers relief from the weak but growing warmth of the sun. Their footsteps echo faintly along the rocks. The sound is subtle, like a slow echo that follows a few steps behind before disappearing. Midway through the passage, the rocks open into a small hollow filled with scattered stones of various shapes. Some are smooth and rounded. Others are flat, forming natural steps across the ground. A few wildflowers grow between the cracks. Their petals are pale and soft, blending easily with the muted tones of the foothills. The travelers pause here for a short rest. They sit on the stones or lean against the hillside. They drink water from their flasks and let the quiet settle deeper around them. One traveler notices an unusual stone with a shallow groove carved across its surface. He kneels and runs his fingers lightly along the groove. The stone is cool and the carving feels smooth. It may have been made by a traveler long ago or perhaps by the natural flow of water from a rare rain. The exact origin does not matter. The quiet presence of the stone feels significant in its own gentle way. The traveler returns it to its place and sits for a moment longer before standing again. The path continues upward at a slow incline. The air grows cooler as the hills rise, carrying a subtle scent of dry herbs and distant vegetation. The travelers breathe more deeply, letting the freshness settle into their bodies. The camels move steadily, their hooves finding secure steps along the sloping road. The bells attached to their packs make faint sounds whenever they shift, adding small, soft notes to the natural quiet of the foothills. Eventually, the caravan reaches a high point where the land levels into a small plateau. From here, the horizon opens toward a new landscape. Instead of sand and wide plains, gentle rolling hills extend far into the distance. They are covered with low shrubs and lines of pale grass. The colors are soft and harmonious, shifting between muted green and warm beige. The wind moves lightly through the grass, creating a quiet ripple that spreads in slow waves. The travelers set down their packs and take a longer rest on the plateau. They sit in a loose circle, their breath syncing naturally with the silence of the hills. One traveler takes out a small bundle of dried herbs and places it in a shallow bowl. He lights it carefully, allowing the smoke to rise in thin, curling strands. The scent is mild and soothing, filling the air with a gentle warmth. It adds a sense of grounding to the already peaceful scene. The camels graze slowly on the sparse vegetation. Their shapes appear soft in the muted light. Their movements are slow and steady. They lift their heads from time to time, watching the travelers with calm eyes before returning to the shrubs. The travelers eat a simple midday meal. They share dates, soft bread, and small pieces of dried fruit. Conversations remain minimal. The silence feels natural, allowing each traveler to reflect quietly. The sound of chewing is faint. The breeze carries the scent of grass across the plateau. Time feels slow and full, like a long inhale that has no need to release quickly. When the meal ends, the group rests a little longer. Some lie back and watch the clouds drift across the sky. Others sit cross-legged, letting the calm settle deeper into their thoughts. The foothills cradle them with gentle stillness, offering a sense of safety and spaciousness. Eventually, the travelers rise again. They gather their packs and help the camels prepare for the next part of the road. The plateau narrows into a downward slope that leads toward another valley far ahead. The path remains soft and unhurried. The Silk Road continues, shifting from sand to stone, from valley to hill, always guiding with steady calm. And the travelers follow its gentle rhythm, step by step, carrying the quiet of the caravanserai and the peace of the foothills with them as they journey onward. The soft descent into the Valley of Quiet Springs. The downhill path from the plateau curves gently toward a wide valley that appears slowly through the muted haze of the afternoon. The air grows slightly warmer as the travelers descend, though the light remains soft and filtered by drifting clouds. The hills rise on either side, their slopes covered in pale grasses that sway in long, slow movements whenever the breeze passes through. Nothing in this place feels abrupt. Every shape, every sound, every shift of light seems to unfold with patient intention. The valley below carries a faint shimmer, as if a thin layer of mist lies across the surface. The travelers continue downward until the ground becomes level, and the valley opens fully around them. Here, the landscape is calm and spacious. Scattered shrubs form small clusters of muted green. A few tall reeds stand near shallow patches of water. The pools are narrow and clear, shaped by underground springs that emerge quietly through the earth without force or sound. The camels approach the nearest spring with slow steps. They lower their heads and drink, their reflections soft and slightly blurred on the surface of the water. The travelers kneel beside them and cup water into their hands. The temperature is cool and refreshing. The water carries the mild scent of clean earth. It feels as though it has traveled a long, quiet path beneath the ground before reaching the surface in peaceful stillness. A narrow field lies beyond the springs. Thin lines of grass run in gentle curves across the valley floor. The travelers walk along these lines, letting their pace match the unhurried rhythm of the land. A small breeze rises, brushing against their cloaks and carrying with it a faint hint of warm soil. The sound of water trickling through the reeds follows them, soft and steady. Near the center of the valley, a single tree stands. Its branches spread outward in a graceful arc, offering shade that falls across the sand in delicate patterns. The leaves are pale green, and the trunk is smooth from seasons of wind. The travelers stop beneath the tree and set down their packs. The ground feels firm and cool. A few sit with their backs against the trunk, while others recline on woven mats, letting the shadows settle gently over them. The air in the valley has a quiet fullness. It is neither heavy nor empty. It feels balanced, as though every element has settled into its place. The sound of wind through the reeds, the faint movement of water, and the soft footsteps of camels create a natural harmony that invites rest. A traveler closes his eyes and breathes deeply, letting the calm settle through his body. Another looks out across the fields, watching how the breeze glides over the grasses in long, smooth waves. After some rest, the travelers prepare a simple midday meal. They spread cloth on the ground and place dates, dried apricots, and pieces of flat bread in small wooden bowls. A pot of warm tea is made with water from the spring. The steam rises in thin curls, blending into the soft air. The travelers eat slowly, savoring each bite without hurry. Their gestures are quiet, and their breaths fall into a restful rhythm. When the meal is finished, they sit together in silence. The valley stretches out around them, open and gentle. The hills in the distance form soft silhouettes against the pale sky. The breeze carries the faint sound of distant birds. Their calls are subtle, blending into the steady hum of the valley. Time feels unmeasured here, expanding and contracting with a natural flow of breath. One traveler takes out a small parchment and runs a hand along its surface. He begins to sketch the valley, tracing light lines that follow the curves of the hills and the shape of the tree. His strokes are slow and deliberate. Another traveler sits nearby, observing the scene without speaking. The drawing captures not only the shape of the land but the calm that fills it. The lines on the parchment reflect the quiet rhythm of the moment. As the afternoon deepens, the travelers rise and continue along the valley floor. The springs form a loose chain that guides them forward. Each spring is slightly different from the last. Some are wider, some narrower, some shaded by small plants, others open to the sky. The reflections in their surfaces shift as the clouds move overhead. The water appears to breathe with the landscape. The path becomes narrower as the valley curves toward the east. Low rocks rise on either side, forming a gentle channel that leads toward a second hollow. The sound of water becomes clearer as they approach. A small stream flows here, moving with slow persistence over smooth stones. The travelers stand at the edge of the stream for a while, watching the way the water glides around each rock, forming delicate ripples that spread outward until they disappear. One traveler kneels to touch the water, letting it flow between his fingers. It feels cool and steady. He watches as it continues its quiet journey down the valley. The stream seems to hold a sense of timelessness, as though it has flowed this way for many seasons without change, carrying the memory of the land with it. The caravan moves on, crossing the shallow stream at a narrow point. Their steps create small splashes that fade quickly. The camels follow, their hooves sinking gently into the soft earth. Beyond the stream, the valley widens again. The grasses grow taller here, brushing lightly against the travelers' legs as they walk. The air carries the faint scent of the plants, warm and calming. Eventually, they reach a low rise where the valley floor meets a cluster of smooth stone formations. These stones are arranged naturally, yet they form a sheltered space large enough for the caravan to rest. The travelers set their packs near the stones and settle onto their mats. The camels kneel nearby, their bodies swaying slightly before they settle into comfortable positions. The light begins to soften further as the sun lowers behind the hills. The shadows lengthen across the valley, blending gently into one another. The sound of the stream becomes a quiet backdrop, steady and soothing. The valley holds the travelers in a quiet embrace, offering a peace that feels deep and untouched. As the day fades, the sky takes on shades of muted gold and pale blue. The travelers sit together without speaking, letting the colors shift around them. Some close their eyes and breathe slowly. Others watch the grasses move in the breeze. The calm settles deeper with each passing moment. The Valley of Quiet Springs cradles them with gentle silence. And the Silk Road, stretching onward like a slow, soft thread, waits patiently for the next steps they will take when morning comes. Evening light in the shelter of worn stone. The sun lowers slowly behind the hills as the travelers settle near the smooth stones at the far end of the valley. The air grows cooler with each passing moment, and the long shadows stretch gently across the ground, softening the shapes of shrubs and grasses. The light becomes warm and muted, spreading across the valley in a thin layer that feels almost weightless. Everything in the landscape seems to quiet itself, preparing for the gentle arrival of dusk. The travelers sit in a loose circle, their movement slow after the long walk through the Valley of Springs. The sound of the distant stream drifts toward them, blending with the faint rustling of grasses. A few camels shift positions and lower themselves beside the stones, their breaths rising in slow, steady clouds. The entire scene feels suspended, wrapped in an atmosphere shaped by the slow rhythm of the day. one traveler places a small ember bowl on the ground and adds a few dry twigs to its center. The twigs catch easily, creating a soft glow that illuminates the circle with warm light. The flames are small and steady, never rising too high. The glow reflects on the stones nearby, bringing out their gentle curves and worn textures. The stones have been shaped by decades of wind, yet they remain strong and calm, offering natural shelter from the evening breeze. A pot of warm tea is prepared, the steam rising in quiet spirals. The scent of the herbs fills the space between the travelers. They wrap their hands around the clay cups, letting the warmth settle through their fingers. The tea has a mild taste, one that comforts without demanding attention. They sip slowly, their breath steady and relaxed. Above them, the sky deepens into a soft gradient of gold and gray. Thin clouds drift across the horizon in long, smooth shapes. A few early stars appear, faint but steady. Their quiet presence signals the gentle transition from day to night. The light changes almost imperceptibly. The shadows blend into the sand. The valley takes on a calm stillness that invites deep rest. One traveler pulls out a small scroll from his pack. The parchment is worn around the edges, and the ink has lightened with time. He unrolls it gently and reads a short passage in silence. The words describe the early traders who once walked this same valley, moving from one quiet spring to another, guided by the slow rhythm of the road and the patient movement of the sky. The traveler closes the scroll and lays it across his knees, letting the weight of its history settle in the peaceful evening air. Another traveler gazes toward the hills. Their shapes appear softer now, their outlines blurred by the dim light. The wind moves slowly around them, carrying a faint scent of cool stone. A bird flies across the valley, its wings cutting a smooth line through the falling light. It disappears quickly, leaving behind a silence that feels balanced and natural. The camels begin to rest more deeply, folding their legs and lowering their long necks. A few shift quietly, the sound of their breaths merging with the gentle hum of the valley. Their silhouettes blend into the surroundings. They seem to understand the peacefulness of the moment, settling into positions that mirror the calm stillness of the travelers. As the ember bowl glows steadily, one traveler places a small pinch of dried herbs onto the fire. A thin thread of smoke rises, carrying a soft, earthy fragrance into the air. The smoke drifts upward before dissolving into the early night. The scent feels grounding, connecting the travelers to the land around them. When the last of the tea is finished, the cups are placed carefully on a flat stone. The travelers stretch their legs and lean back against the rocks. The smooth surfaces feel cool to the touch, contrasting gently with the warm glow of the embers. They close their eyes for a moment, letting the sensations blend together into a quiet harmony. After a long pause, one traveler begins to speak softly. His voice is low, matching the pace of the evening. He tells a simple story he learned from another wanderer long ago. The story is about a traveler who followed the Silk Road without ever rushing, trusting that the path itself would reveal what he needed. The tale is slow and soothing, filled with descriptions of gentle landscapes and peaceful nights beneath wide skies. When the story ends, the valley feels even more serene. The sky darkens gradually. More stars appear above the hills, spreading across the heavens in faint, steady points of light. The glow of the embers reflects in their eyes as they look upward, breathing slowly, letting the night unfold. The wind becomes cooler. The grasses sway in soft patterns. The valley holds the caravan in its quiet embrace. One traveler unfurls a woven mat and lies down on it. He folds his hands across his chest and watches the stars drift slowly across the sky. Another arranges his blanket and leans back against his pack, eyes half closed. A third rests with his head against a camel's side, listening to the steady rhythm of the animal's breath. The embers dim slightly, though their warmth lingers. The The stones around them absorb the traces of heat, giving off a faint warmth that feels gentle and calming. The sound of the nearby stream remains constant. It flows in a soft, unbroken rhythm, like a quiet song guiding the valley into night. Eventually, the travelers lie back fully. Their breathing becomes slow and even. The camels settle more deeply. The night wraps itself around the valley, peaceful and cool. The sky continues to shimmer faintly above them. The Silk Road stretches onward, unseen in the darkness, but present all the same, holding its ancient rhythm beneath the stars. And in the quiet of the valley, the travelers rest, letting the calm settle through every part of their journey. The soft lanterns of midnight crossing. Night deepens slowly over the valley. The faint glow of the embers fades into a soft ring of warmth around the stones. The travelers remain resting in gentle silence. Their breathing is calm and steady. The air cools a little more with each passing moment. Even the wind seems to slow its steps, brushing lightly along the sand as though careful not to disturb anyone who has drifted into half sleep. Overhead, the stars brighten. They shimmer in long, slow pulses that mirror the rhythm of the valley itself. A thin ribbon of cloud stretches across the sky, pale against the darkness. The shape moves slowly, barely shifting, as if the night wishes to preserve its stillness. One traveler opens his eyes. He does not sit up. He simply looks toward the sky, letting the stars fill his vision. He traces their shapes lazily, following the lines he learned from older wanderers. The sky here feels wide and patient. The constellations appear softer, as though painted in strokes of gentle light rather than sharp points. He breathes slowly. The air feels cool in his chest, settling like a calming layer around his thoughts. Nearby, another traveler stirs slightly. The soft crunch of sand under fabric breaks the silence for a moment, then dissolves back into the quiet. He reaches for his water flask, drinks a small sip, then rests again. The simple act feels deliberate, unhurried. Around him, the valley holds its breath, letting the moment settle without rushing. A small lantern hangs from a wooden stake near the camels. The flame is small and steady. Its light moves in slow waves across the sand. The lantern sways gently in the breeze. Each movement creates a soft glimmer that spreads across the travelers like faint strokes of gold. The glow forms a peaceful circle that marks the boundary of their little camp. Beyond it, the darkness is deep but not threatening. It has the quiet acceptance of a night that has seen countless caravans pass through over many generations. The camels shift positions again. One adjusts its legs, lowering its head to rest more fully. Another gives a slow exhale, releasing a long warm breath that rises gently like a cloud in the cool air. Their silhouettes blend softly into the darkened hills. They seem calm and grounded, as though the night itself reassures them with its deep rhythm. A soft sound travels across the valley. At first, it seems like the wind brushing gently against the rocks. Then it reveals a softer pattern more like footsteps. Not hurried footsteps. Not heavy. Instead, they resemble slow, careful strides approaching from the far side of the valley. The travelers do not startle. They remain relaxed. They know that on the Silk Road, the night often carries simple sounds in long, gentle waves. A lone wanderer steps into the soft light of the lantern. He moves slowly as if not wishing to break the stillness of the group. His cloak is worn but steady on his shoulders. He carries a small pack and a long staff shaped smooth from years of travel. He nods quietly to the others. They return the gesture with a calm expression and a slight motion of the hand, inviting him to share their space. The wanderer sits near the outer edge of the lantern light. He lowers his pack with care and folds his cloak beneath him. Without a word, one traveler pours a small amount of warm tea from the pot that remains near the embers. The wanderer accepts it quietly, nods again, and holds the cup between his hands. The heat seems to settle through his palms, easing the strain from his journey. He sips the tea slowly. No one speaks. There is no need. The Silk Road has its own language made of silence, gestures, and the soft rhythm of breath shared among strangers who understand the journey. After a moment, the wanderer looks upward. He studies the stars with a calm gaze. The light of the lantern catches the side of his face, revealing a peaceful expression shaped by many nights like this one. He points gently at a cluster of stars overhead. The others follow his hand. He traces a slow pattern in the air, outlining a shape that resembles a bird flying toward the horizon. One traveler nods. The constellation is known in several lands along the route. In some places, it symbolizes guidance. In others, it represents the gentle return of a long journey. The wanderer finishes tracing the pattern and lowers his hand. The group remains quiet, letting the meaning settle naturally between them. The night grows deeper. The valley begins to cool further. The lantern flame shifts into a softer glow. The embers near the stones crackle faintly before returning to stillness. The travelers adjust their blankets and lean back once more. The wanderer closes his eyes for a brief moment, breathing in the cool night air. His shoulders relax, and a sense of ease settles across his posture. Far in the distance, a faint sound rises. It is the slow echo of a caravan bell carried on the wind. The travelers listen without moving. The tone is soft, fading in and out as the breeze changes directions. It is likely another group passing several valleys away. Even at great distance, the sound feels familiar. It is a reminder that many paths cross in these lands, each moving at its own quiet pace. The breeze grows lighter. It brushes gently over the blankets and stirs the lantern flame. The sand around the travelers cools beneath them. The night sky widens further as more stars reveal themselves. Their steady glow offers a sense of calm continuity that flows across the valley like a slow-moving river. One traveler reaches into his pack and removes a small instrument. It is a simple flute carved from light wood. He holds it loosely for a moment, as though deciding whether to play. Then he brings it to his lips and releases a single slow note. The sound is soft and deep, drifting calmly into the night. He plays another note, equally gentle. The melody is simple with long pauses between each tone. The music seems to roll across the valley, mixing with the breeze and the distant sound of the stream. The wanderer listens with his eyes half closed. The camels lift their heads slightly, then rest again. The melody is not a song to entertain. It is a quiet conversation with the night, shaped by breath and space. After a few moments, the flute falls silent, and the stillness returns with renewed softness. The travelers shift a little, finding more comfortable positions. The wanderer lies back as well, folding his cloak beneath his head. The lantern continues to sway in calm, slow motions. The air cools another degree. The hills darken further. Yet everything feels serene. Nothing threatens the peace of the night. As the last sounds of the day dissolve into the valley, the group rests together under the gentle sky. Their breathing becomes slow and aligned. The stars shimmer with mild intensity. The lantern's glow paints faint shapes on the sand. The Silk Road stretches far ahead of them. But in this moment, surrounded by warm light and deep quiet, the journey rests. The night holds them with a soft, steady rhythm that eases every thought into tranquility. Quiet footsteps toward the fading horizon. The night holds steady as the final hours drift toward dawn. The air settles into a cool, gentle stillness that wraps itself around the camp like a soft blanket. The lantern near the camels sways less now. Its flame has grown smaller but remains steady, casting a thin ring of warm light across the sand. Beyond that circle, the valley stretches out in deep shadows. Every shape blends into another. Hills soften into smooth silhouettes. Stones appear like resting animals. Even the sky seems quieter as the stars glow with a calm that feels almost timeless. A faint breeze brushes the edge of the camp. It carries a sense of distant fields and cold streams. The breeze moves slowly from one side of the valley to the other, as though searching for something before disappearing into the night. The sound of the stream continues in long, calm waves. It keeps a steady pulse that eases the mind into slower thought. The travelers remain resting near the warm stones. Their breathing is long and even. For a moment, none of them move. The night feels balanced. It feels complete. One traveler shifts slightly to adjust his blanket, then returns to stillness. Another opens his eyes for a brief moment, gazing at the faint outline of a hill before closing them again. The wanderer who joined them earlier sleeps lightly with his cloak pulled high along his shoulders. His staff rests on the sand beside him, its shadow long and thin. The embers near the center of the camp glow in a shallow circle. No flames rise from them now. Only the faint orange glow of heat remains. It pulses softly like the last heartbeat of the fire. The warm light touches the travelers' faces in smooth, gentle patterns. Each shift of the wind reshapes the glow into new forms. It is a quiet reminder that even the smallest source of warmth can hold the night together. The camels sleep as well. Their breaths rise in slow, steady clouds that fade almost immediately into the cool air. One camel lifts its head slightly as if sensing a distant sound, then lowers it again. The animals seem to understand the peacefulness of this hour. They settle deeper into the sand, their long eyelashes casting faint shadows on their cheeks. A new sound enters the valley. It is small and soft. A tiny pebble shifts on the hillside. Then another. The sound is delicate like a whisper moving across stone. One traveler opens his eyes again, not startled but attentive in a restful way. He listens for a moment and then realizes it is only the slight movement of the hillside as the temperature changes. The valley is alive in this quiet, slow manner. Nothing is urgent. Nothing seeks to disturb the calm. The traveler closes his eyes once more. The stars above begin to fade into a gentle haze. Their brightness softens slowly as the horizon hints at the earliest trace of morning. It is not yet light. It is only the subtle thinning of darkness, like a soft veil being lifted one thread at a time. The breeze pauses. For a brief moment, the valley feels perfectly still. One traveler rises quietly, careful not to disturb the others. He moves toward the edge of the lantern light and stands for a moment, breathing the cool air deeply. He looks across the valley. The hills roll gently into one another like slow waves on a distant shore. The horizon stretches in a long, smooth line. Over it, the sky deepens into a shade of blue that holds no sharp edges. Only soft transitions. He kneels and runs his fingers through the sand. It feels cold but familiar. The patterns left by the wind are still visible. Each line seems to guide the eye toward the same endless direction, as though the road itself has been shaped by the passage of countless travelers over countless nights. Another traveler rises and joins him. They do not speak. Their silent presence is enough. They look across the land together, taking in the calm stillness of the fading night. Memories of the road pass through their minds in slow, gentle waves. The mountain passes. The wide plains. The quiet springs. The long evenings around small fires. The Silk Road has a way of gathering these moments into a single quiet thread that stretches through time. The wanderer wakes and sits up slowly. He watches the two travelers at the edge of the camp. A soft smile forms on his face. Then he adjusts his cloak and rises to his feet. His movements are slow and deliberate. He lifts his staff and lets its end rest lightly on the sand. The sound it makes is nearly silent. He steps toward the group at the edge of the lantern light. They acknowledge him with a calm nod. The wanderer looks toward the horizon. His eyes trace the long stretch of land ahead. For a while, none of them move. The sky brightens another degree, though the sun remains hidden. The travelers breathe in the coolness of the moment. Finally, one traveler returns to the embers and kneels beside them. He lifts a small handful of dry twigs and places them gently on the warm circle. A faint smoke rises. It spreads slowly into the air. The warmth gathers again in soft pulses. The glow deepens a little. It is still quiet, still delicate, but enough to bring the group together for the waking hour. The travelers gather around the embers. Each sits in silence, letting the warmth reach their hands. The wanderer sips the last drops of water from his flask. Another traveler removes a small pouch of dried fruit and passes it around. They eat in slow, measured bites. The food is simple but grounding, shaping their minds toward the day ahead with steady calm. As the sky lightens further, the first faint shapes of distant dunes appear. The horizon softens into pale gray. The valley begins to reveal its features slowly. The stones near the camp gain clearer edges. The camels rise one by one, stretching their long legs and lifting their heads to greet the dawn. Their movements are gentle and unhurried. The travelers stand and gather their belongings. They move with the same slow rhythm that has guided them through the entire night. Blankets are folded. Mats are rolled. The lantern is extinguished with a quiet breath. Its flame fades gently without any sharp flicker. The embers cool into a dim circle of soft red. Nothing ends abruptly. Everything transitions with patience. When the camels are ready, the travelers lift their packs and place them carefully across the saddles. They tighten the straps with slow, precise motions. The wanderer secures his cloak and checks the knot at his shoulder. Then he looks once more at the valley that embraced their rest. The moment holds for a breath. The group begins to walk. Their footsteps fall softly on the sand. The road ahead curves gently toward the rising hills. The sky brightens in thin layers, each one blending smoothly with the next. The valley behind them fades into the calm shadows of early morning. The travelers do not hurry. The Silk Road has its own pace. They follow it with steady minds and quiet hearts. The breeze returns. It moves across the land with a cooler touch. It carries the soft scent of distant grasses and the faint memory of the night. The travelers breathe it in and continue onward. Their figures grow smaller as they follow the long, slow path toward the fading horizon. And the valley returns to silence once again. Dawn light over the gentle pass. The morning forms slowly over the valley as the travelers follow the long curve of the path leading toward the hills. The sky grows brighter in thin, calm layers. Soft gray turns into pale silver. Silver turns into the faintest shade of warm gold. Each change appears so quietly that the travelers almost do not notice. The land breathes in this slow, widening light with steady patience. The group walks at an unhurried pace. Their steps fall softly on sand-shaped smooth during the night. The camels move behind them in a gentle, steady rhythm. Their shadows blend with the cool ground, stretching long before shrinking into shorter shapes as the sun lifts bit by bit. There is no rush in their motion. The Silk Road teaches that every part of the journey has value, even the quiet steps taken before full daylight. The hills ahead begin to reveal their forms. Their slopes rise in long, shallow lines. The tops of the ridges glow gently as the sunlight touches them. The edges appear soft like brushed cloth rather than stone. The wind brushes across the land with a cool, steady motion that loosens the grainy sound of sand shifting under the travelers' feet. As they climb the lower edge of the pass, the breeze changes. It becomes slightly warmer. It carries the faint memory of herbs growing somewhere unseen. The surface of the path feels firmer here. Small stones roll slowly under their feet. The camels adjust their steps without hesitation. Their patience feels like another quiet guide along the road. One traveler looks back over his shoulder. The valley behind them stretches in wide, calm layers. The resting place of the night has faded into soft morning colors. The worn stones near the camp are no longer visible from this height, but the memory of their warmth lingers. The traveler breathes deeply, letting the air fill his chest. The scent of the morning wind feels like a gentle invitation to continue. The path curves upward in a smooth arc. The sides of the hills show streaks of pale green mixed with dry earth. Low plants gather around the stones, their leaves still holding the coolness of the night. A few small birds glide along the slope, brushing the air with nearly silent wings. Their presence adds a quiet sense of life to the open land. As they near the top of the pass, the horizon expands. The travelers slow their pace naturally. The sunlight reaches fully across the hills now. It creates soft golden lines that stretch over the ridges and flow into the distant plains. The group pauses at the crest. They do not speak. The view itself provides enough calm to fill the silence. Ahead lies a wide landscape that seems to rest in an endless gentle breath. Rolling plains spread in smooth layers. Winding lines hint at old riverbeds. Clusters of distant shrubs gather around shallow rises. The land feels untouched, yet familiar, as though shaped by countless travelers who once walked this same pass. One camel lowers its head and breathes a deep, slow breath. The sound is steady and grounding. The travelers smile faintly. They stand side by side, letting the wind move around their clothing and brush lightly against their faces. The rising sun warms their hands. The stillness of the plain below invites them to descend with the same patient rhythm that carried them through the valley. They begin the descent. The path is narrower here, lined with small stones that glow faintly under the morning light. Each footstep creates a soft sound. Pebbles shift gently. Loose grains slide in small patterns. The camels step carefully, their long legs finding the smoothest parts of the trail. Nothing feels rushed. Every motion seems to move in harmony with the land. Halfway down the slope, the travelers come upon a small ledge of rock that forms a natural resting point. They pause again. The rock is worn smooth from years of weather, shaped in a gentle curve that fits the shape of the hillside. The group sits on the ledge, feeling the cool surface against their palms. The wanderer rests his staff beside him and lets his cloak settle lightly across his lap. Below, the plains stretch outward in peaceful tones. A thin layer of morning mist spreads across the lowest ground, shifting slowly like calm water. The sunlight touches the mist with pale gold. The scene feels soft and weightless. The travelers watch without speaking. Their breathing aligns with the slow rise and fall of the landscape. One traveler removes his water flask and takes a sip. The cool liquid refreshes him. He passes the flask to the wanderer, who drinks slowly, then hands it back with a quiet nod. Another traveler brushes a few grains of sand from his sleeve. These simple gestures feel natural and grounding. The morning carries no demands. It only asks for presence. When the group rises, they move with renewed steadiness. The rest on the ledge has softened their limbs. They continue down the path until they reach the wide plain. Here the ground becomes smoother, shaped by wind rather than rock. Their footsteps leave faint impressions that disappear moments later as the breeze glides over them. A thin path winds across the plain, marked by the soft tracks of past caravans. The travelers follow this line without needing to discuss the direction. The Silk Road often reveals its way through quiet signs in the land. The air here feels warmer now. The scent of dry grass mixes with a faint sweetness carried from distant shrubs. As the sun rises higher, long shadows shorten. The day opens fully, yet the calm rhythm of the morning remains. The travelers adjust their packs and walk with an easy pace. The wanderer moves beside them, his staff tapping lightly against the earth in a slow, steady rhythm. The camels follow without hesitation, their steps almost soundless on the soft ground. The plain ahead appears endless, but not empty. It holds a peaceful openness that welcomes all who pass through. Distant shapes at the horizon shift gently in the heat, creating slow waves of light. The travelers do not rush toward them. The road allows for gradual progress. They follow it with quiet patience. The wind continues to guide their steps. It carries the faint echo of the hills behind them and the subtle promise of new landscapes ahead. The morning stretches forward with calm invitation. The travelers walk deeper into the plain, their figures blending softly into the warm light of the day. And the Silk Road opens before them with gentle, unwavering ease. The whispering plains beneath the midday sun. The travelers continue their steady path across the warm plain. The sun has climbed higher, yet the light remains gentle. It spreads across the land in soft layers that feel more like a warm blanket than a sharp glare. Shadows shorten into smooth shapes beside the camels' legs. The air carries a mild stillness that makes every sound slower and softer than usual. The plain stretches in long, quiet waves. Faint ridges rise and fall with a rhythm that almost resembles the breathing of the earth. Small clusters of dry grass sway lightly in the breeze. Their motion is subtle and unhurried. Even the grains of sand seem to drift with purpose. Each particle lifts briefly before settling again, as if following an old familiar pattern shaped by many seasons. The travelers maintain an unbroken calm. Their steps fall in a softened cadence. The camels move behind them with a slow and steady confidence. One traveler lifts his hand and shields his eyes for a moment, scanning the horizon. The heat forms gentle distortions in the distance. Shapes waver like reflections on still water. Nothing seems rushed or unclear. The land presents itself with quiet honesty. A small path branches from the main track. It curves in a smooth line toward a low rise covered in pale grasses. The group pauses. They exchange brief glances that do not require words. Then they continue along the main route, trusting the wider road to guide them forward. The Silk Road holds many such crossings. Each one invites thought but does not demand haste. The wanderer walks near the front. His steps remain light. The staff in his hand taps the earth only occasionally. He listens to the wind as though it carries messages from lands far ahead. The breeze shifts gently around him. It moves through the grass in waves that sound like low whispers. The grass bends and rises again in slow, peaceful pulses. They pass a shallow hollow filled with fine sand. The hollow catches the wind and creates thin spirals that rise into the air. The spirals drift upward, twist softly, then dissolve. The travelers watch for a moment. The motion feels like a quiet reminder that the journey is not measured by speed but by presence. A few migrating birds appear in the sky. Their wings move in slow, deliberate strokes. They glide above the travelers, following the same line of the land. For a brief moment, the shadow of one bird drifts across the ground, crossing the road in a gentle arc. The travelers lift their eyes and watch until the birds fade into the bright haze near the horizon. The warmth of the day deepens, yet it does not press heavily. Instead, it creates a soft drowsiness around the travelers. Their shoulders relax. Their breath flows in a smoother rhythm. The camels chew lazily on bits of grass they find along the path, then continue walking without any urgency. The group stops near a small rise where the ground forms a natural resting place. The stones here are smoother and cooler. The travelers lower their packs and sit upon the stones. The warmth of the sun rests lightly on their backs. They drink water in slow, careful sips. The coolness of the liquid spreads calmly through their bodies. One traveler removes a small pouch of dried figs and passes them around. The figs taste sweet and comforting. The simple food feels grounding, steadying their energy for the slow afternoon ahead. The wanderer sits apart for a moment. He watches the wind shape the grass in long, slow waves. His eyes move with the pattern, almost meditative. Then he selects a small stone from the ground. He runs his thumb over its surface. The stone is warm and smooth. Its shape suggests that it has been carried by wind and time across many places before arriving here. He sets it down gently, respecting its quiet story. After a short rest, the travelers rise again. They secure their packs. The camels stand and stretch their long legs. The road ahead glimmers faintly in the warm light. The group resumes their journey with the same slow, steady pace that has guided them since dawn. As the afternoon deepens, the plain reveals new colors. Golden patches of grass mix with areas of faded green. The shrubs take on a warmer hue. The shadows beneath the scattered stones turn soft and muted. The plain seems to settle into a peaceful stillness, shaped by the gradual shift of the sun. A distant ridge comes into view. Its outline appears faint, barely distinguishable from the haze. The travelers know it will take many hours to reach it. They do not try to measure the distance. The Silk Road does not move according to clocks or numbers. It moves according to breath and earth and the slow change of light. A gentle wind flows from the east. It carries the faintest scent of water, though no river or stream is visible. The travelers breathe it in, letting the hint of moisture refresh their senses. The camels lift their heads slightly, responding to the same quiet signal. Somewhere ahead, the land may offer a small spring or shaded place to rest when the time comes. The group walks in silence until the sun begins to lean toward the west. The sky shifts into softer tones. Pale gold begins to mix with slow waves of warm amber. The plain absorbs the changing light in calm layers. Every hill and hollow appears softer, gentler, as though preparing for the coolness of the evening. One traveler hums a low melody under his breath. The sound is faint, barely rising above the wind. The tune seems shaped by the rhythm of the road. It drifts beside the group, blending with the rustling of grass. The wanderer listens and smiles softly. The melody is simple, yet it carries a deep peace. It feels as though the road itself has taught it to countless travelers over centuries. As the sun lowers further, the shadows grow longer. The air begins to cool. The travelers adjust their cloaks. The camels slow a little, sensing the nearing end of the day's march. The plain falls into a calmer silence. The wind softens into a gentle flow. The horizon stretches in a long, peaceful line. The group stops near a cluster of stones that rise out of the ground like quiet guardians. The stones form a small natural shelter from the evening breeze. The travelers gather their packs and prepare to rest. The sun paints the land in the last warm light of the day. The glow softens their faces and casts smooth reflections across the sand. They sit in silence, letting the warmth settle around them. The camels kneel and lower themselves beside the stones. The travelers lean back, feeling the earth steady beneath them. Above, the sky begins to fade into the first shades of evening. The plane holds its breath in quiet anticipation of night. And the travelers breathe with it, sinking gently into the slow embrace of the Silk Road's endless calm. Evening shadows at the edge of the desert plain. The sun leans steadily toward the horizon, sending long bands of amber light across the quiet plain. The travelers settle near the cluster of stones they chose for rest. The stones rise in smooth, gentle shapes, worn by time into the form of natural seats and low walls. Their surfaces glow faintly in the warm light. Shadows lengthen behind them in soft curves that stretch across the sand. The camels lower themselves into comfortable positions. They fold their legs slowly and let out long breaths that drift like pale mist in the cooling air. Their bodies form calm shapes beside the stones, steady and unmoving. The fading sun touches the edges of their fur, turning each outline into a soft golden frame. The camels do not shift much. They simply rest, easing into the silence of the evening. One traveler kneels near a small flat stone and prepares a simple fire. He arranges dry twigs and thin branches in a loose circle. When he strikes a spark, the flame rises gently. It forms a small steady glow rather than a sharp flare. The firelight blends smoothly with the fading sunlight, creating a warm pool of light that surrounds the group. The wanderer sits near the stones with his cloak wrapped loosely around his shoulders. He seems to listen to the land with quiet interest. His gaze moves slowly across the plain, following the shifting colors of the sky. The air carries a delicate breeze that brushes lightly against his face. He closes his eyes briefly and breathes in the coolness of the evening. The plain transforms in slow, graceful movements. The warm gold softens into muted orange, then into pale rose, then into a smooth fading blue that reaches gently across the sky. Each change flows into the next without a single harsh edge. The travelers watch silently. The shift from day to night feels like slow breathing, drawn out in long, comfortable intervals. One traveler opens his pack and removes a small cloth pouch filled with coarse grains. He pours a handful into a metal cup and mixes it with warm water from a flask. The grains swell slowly, absorbing the heat. The simple food carries a mild, earthy scent. He passes the cup to the wanderer, who takes a slow, careful sip. The warmth spreads through his chest, easing the tiredness in his limbs. The fire cracks softly as the travelers share their meal. They eat in silence, chewing in a slow rhythm that matches the calming pace of the land around them. When the food is finished, they place their cups near the fire to keep warm. A faint steam rises from each cup and disappears into the cooling air. The sun sinks lower. Its final glow stretches across the plain in a long, thin band of fading light. The hills in the distance form gentle silhouettes that blur into the horizon. The sky settles into a deepening shade of blue. One star appears overhead. Then another. Each star shines with a soft glow, steady and calm, as if placed carefully by the slow hand of the night. The wanderer points to a cluster of stars that rise above the eastern ridge. The constellation appears faint at first. Slowly, its pattern becomes clear. It resembles a curved bow stretched in a half circle. The travelers trace the shape with their eyes. The wanderer lowers his hand and returns to quiet observation. The stars shine with calm purpose, guiding the night onward. A thin wind rises from the west. It flows along the plain with a gentle motion that feels almost like a whisper. The grasses sway in smooth lines. The sand shifts in faint patterns. The wind cools the surface of the stones and carries the scent of distant dry shrubs. The travelers adjust their cloaks and lean closer to the fire. The warmth surrounds them in a gentle circle. One traveler picks up a flat stone and draws a simple shape in the sand beside him. He traces a long line, then adds a few smaller lines branching from it. The drawing resembles a path crossing through a wide open space. When he finishes, he smooths the lines away with his palm. The gesture feels like a quiet reflection rather than an act of planning. The wanderer watches with a thoughtful expression, then returns his gaze to the horizon. The fire settles into a steady glow. The flames become smaller and more controlled. They create faint patterns of light across the traveler's clothing. The shadows of the stones shift slightly as the evening deepens. Everything moves with a slow rhythm. Nothing feels sharp or sudden. One camel rises briefly, stretches its long neck, then settles again with a relaxed sigh. The sound blends with the quiet hum of the wind. The travelers listen. The noise of the desert plain appears in small, gentle fragments. A rustle of grass. A faint shifting of sand. The soft movement of wings as a night bird passes overhead. The sky grows darker. The stars brighten. The plain becomes a calm open space under the wide night. The fire casts a warm circle that stands out softly against the cool tones of the landscape. The travelers sit close to the stones, resting their backs against them. Their bodies relax fully. Their breathing slows into peaceful, steady rhythms. The wanderer removes a small leather strap from his pack. He loops it around his wrist and ties a simple knot. The knot is loose and gentle. It seems to carry a personal meaning. Perhaps it marks another step in his journey. He tucks the strap under his sleeve and sits quietly for a moment, listening to the land breathe around him. One traveler hums a slow tune, barely above a whisper. The melody flows in simple lines. It moves gently through the air, shaping a calm space around the fire. The other travelers do not join in. They simply listen. The tune fades gradually, leaving a soft silence in its place. The night settles fully over the plain. A cool darkness spreads around the stones. The fire becomes the only source of light. It glows steadily, warming the circle where the travelers rest. The camels lie still. The wind softens. The stars remain bright and unchanging. The group prepares to sleep. They unroll their mats and spread them across the smoothest part of the sand. They lie down slowly, letting their bodies ease into the ground. The wanderer lowers himself near the fire and draws his cloak around him. The warmth from the embers touches his face in gentle pulses. The plain becomes silent except for the faint crackle of the fire. The travelers close their eyes. Breath by breath, the night carries them into deeper rest. The sky stretches above them like a calm river of light. The Silk Road waits quietly for the next hours of dawn. Night winds among the silent stones. The night deepens over the plain with calm certainty. The sky stretches into a wide dark field scattered with soft pale stars. The fire has settled into a low glow, its embers pulsing in slow warm breaths. The travelers rest near the stones, wrapped in their cloaks, their bodies sinking gently into the cool sand. Nothing around them moves quickly. The world settles into a steady quiet that seems to have no beginning and no end. A faint wind flows from the north. It moves across the plain with the quiet grace of a drifting shadow. It brushes lightly against the stones, creating a soft whisper that rises and fades without pattern. The grasses lean in gentle arcs as the wind passes. The sand shifts in small, slow waves, leaving smooth patterns that resemble the marks of distant rivers. One traveler opens his eyes slightly. He watches the movement of the firelight against the stones. The glow reflects in long, steady lines. The light does not flicker sharply. It moves like breath. The traveler closes his eyes again. His chest rises and falls with a rhythm shaped by the calm of the night. The wanderer remains awake a little longer. He sits with his back against a rounded stone. His cloak hangs loosely over his knees. His eyes follow the sky, tracing the long curve of faint constellations. The stars appear softer now, as if wrapped in thin veils. A few drift behind passing strands of cloud. The clouds move slowly, their shapes spreading and dissolving without urgency. The wanderer feels the cool air flow through the fabric of his cloak. He lowers his head slightly and listens. Beneath the wind he hears the subtle sound of the camels resting. Their breaths are long and even. One camel shifts its weight, causing a low, gentle exhale that drifts but does not disturb the silence. A distant howl rises from beyond the plain. The sound is soft and drawn out, more like a low echo than a sharp call. The traveler closest to the fire hears it but does not move. The sound fades quickly and blends with the wind. The night holds it without concern, as though such calls have always belonged to these hours. The wanderer looks toward the horizon. In the far distance, a faint pale band of light appears and disappears again. It might be the first suggestion of the moon rising behind the hills. It might be only a trick of the clouds moving across the sky. He watches for a few moments more, then lets the thought drift away. He reaches for his staff, resting beside him in the sand. He tilts it onto his lap and runs his fingers along its smooth surface. The wood carries the warmth of the day and the coolness of the night in balanced layers. He holds it lightly, letting its familiar shape bring steadiness to his thoughts. Then he sets it aside again, near the fire, where the soft glow touches its length. The wind shifts direction. It grows slightly cooler. The grasses whisper in a new pattern. The sand settles into different flowing lines. The change is quiet and natural. The travelers continue to sleep through it. Their bodies adjust in small motions. One turns onto his side. Before the first light touches the horizon, the night lingers in its deepest stillness. The plain rests beneath a wide canopy of dark, quiet sky. The faint glow of the embers has dimmed into a soft ring of warmth that barely touches the nearby stones. The air carries a steady coolness that settles gently on the sand and the travelers alike. Every shape around the camp feels softened by the hour, wrapped in a calm that seems to stretch endlessly. One traveler shifts under his cloak. He draws the fabric closer to his neck and exhales a slow, warm breath that drifts into the cool air. His body relaxes again. His mind drifts between sleep and awareness. He hears nothing threatening. Only the soft pulse of the plain and the calming rhythm of the remaining embers. The camels lie still. Their bodies form long, calm shadows that melt smoothly into the ground. When one camel breathes in, its chest rises in a slow, gentle wave. When it exhales, the sound blends into the quiet night. A faint twitch of the ear here and there is the only sign of their light awareness. Even they sense the approaching shift of the hour, though the sun remains far below the horizon. The wanderer remains asleep near the stones. His staff lies beside him, half covered by the folds of his cloak. His hand rests lightly on the sand. The wind has softened around him, moving in a slow, drifting pattern. It lifts the edge of his cloak with careful fingers, as though attempting to read its texture. Then the breeze fades again, leaving only the quiet hum of the night. Above, the stars begin to change. They do not fade yet. They sharpen slightly. Their edges become clearer. The vast dark between them takes on a faint softness. This is the moment when the sky holds its breath before the first hint of morning appears. The change is subtle but undeniable. The hour moves forward with patience. A distant sound rises from beyond the horizon. It is small at first. A quiet tremor that seems to echo across the plain. One traveler opens his eyes. He listens. The sound is not a call or a heavy movement. It is the soft vibration of wind passing between rocks on a far ridge. When he realizes this, he relaxes again and closes his eyes, letting the comfort of recognition ease him back toward rest. The sky shifts another shade. The darkness near the eastern ridge becomes less dense. It loosens in thin, faint layers. The ridge itself, once lost in shadow, begins to reveal a soft outline. The land breathes into this transition with the same slow rhythm it has held all night. The wanderer stirs. His eyes open halfway. He gazes at the fading stars above him. His breath deepens as he senses the slow arrival of dawn. He sits up with measured movement, pulling his cloak around his shoulders. He looks toward the embers. Their glow has dimmed nearly to darkness. He brushes a few grains of sand from his cloak and rests his hands on his knees. The wind returns in a gentle current. It carries the scent of dry grass and distant earth. It also carries something lighter, a hint of moisture that signals the coming of morning. The wanderer breathes it in and lets the scent settle inside him. He knows this signal well. It appears in the last quiet stretch before the day begins. One traveler lifts his head. The coolness of the breeze touches his face and wakes him more fully. He gazes toward the horizon. The soft shape of the ridge has grown clearer. The faintest pale band stretches above it. It is not yet bright enough to be called light. It is only the suggestion of what will come. The travelers rise slowly. Their movements are relaxed. No one rushes. This hour invites stillness. They fold their blankets and mats with care. The wanderer stands and lifts his staff. The wood feels cool in his hand. He plants it gently in the sand and lets his weight settle against it while he watches the sky. The camels stretch their legs. One rises and shakes off the thin layer of sand that settled on its side during the night. Its movements create a quiet rolling sound that blends with the soft breeze. The travelers move toward the animals with calm familiarity. They check the straps on the packs, tightening a loose knot here and there. Their motions are steady and unforced. The embers give one final glow before fading completely. The warmth disappears gradually. The sand beneath the fire cools into a smooth, even surface. The ring of stones around the fire retains a gentle warmth, holding the last memory of the night. The wanderer steps away from the stones and walks a few paces toward the ridge. The sand under his feet holds the imprint of the night breeze. It feels cool and soft, shaped into faint flowing lines. The wanderer kneels and touches the sand with his fingertips. He draws a small arc that curves naturally toward the east. Then he smooths the arc away. The act centers him, connecting him with the slow rhythm of the land. The faint band above the ridge begins to widen. It grows into a thin, quiet glow. The sky shifts from deep blue into a pale mixture of gray and soft gold. The stars near the horizon fade gently. Those higher in the sky linger a little longer. The travelers watch the transition without speaking. The moment requires no words. The land itself provides guidance. One traveler offers water to the wanderer. He drinks in calm small sips. The cool liquid moves through him with steady warmth. He hands the flask back with a quiet nod. Another traveler attaches a small pouch of dried herbs to the side of a camel's pack. The scent drifts upward in a faint earthy trail. The camels stand ready. Their silhouettes gain clearer shape as the sky brightens. Their legs appear long and steady. Their bodies form gentle curves in the quiet light. They move closer to one another, creating a small cluster that feels almost protective. The travelers gather their belongings. They move toward the camels and secure the last straps. The wanderer looks across the plain one final time. The darkness reveals its last traces. The land begins to show its patterns. Faint lines stretch across the horizon. Distant hills emerge from shadow. The first true glow of dawn touches the ridge. It forms a soft curve of warm light. The light spreads slowly downward, painting the plain in delicate layers. Shadows soften and stretch. The sky opens into its first breath of day. The travelers step forward. Their feet press gently into the sand. The camels begin to walk. The plain awakens in quiet harmony. The Silk Road lies ahead, ready for the slow, patient steps that will carry them deeper into the journey. And the first light of morning follows them with calm, steady grace. The first quiet steps into the morning plain. The first light spreads slowly across the ridge. It does not rush. It moves like a thin veil being lifted from the land in long, patient motions. The sky softens into pale gold and gray. The darkness withdraws in smooth layers. The plain opens to the morning in a gentle unfolding that feels almost like the deep inhale before a day truly begins. The travelers walk at a slow, steady pace. Their feet leave faint impressions in the cool sand. The camels follow in calm, measured steps. Their long legs move with natural rhythm. Their shadows stretch behind them in smooth shapes that lengthen and shorten with each small rise of the land. The air carries the coolness of the night mixed with the earliest warmth of morning. Each breath feels both refreshing and grounding. The travelers breathe deeply. Their bodies ease into the motion of walking. The wanderer leads the group with his steady gait. His staff touches the earth in quiet taps that blend with the peaceful sound of soft sand shifting beneath their feet. A thin mist lies across the lower parts of the plain. It moves slowly, drifting like a silver sheet that slides over the land in calm waves. The mist thickens near the distant shrubs. It thins near the stones. It glows faintly under the rising sun. The travelers pass through it, their forms briefly dissolving into pale shapes before emerging again on the other side. One traveler lifts his hand and feels the moisture in the air. The mist cools his fingers. He lowers his hand again and continues walking. The silence of the morning feels complete. No birds call yet. No distant sounds reach them. Only the quiet motion of their steps and the soft breath of the camels accompany them. The wanderer looks to the ridge behind them. The sun has climbed enough to outline the hills in a glowing curve. The stones catch the light and reflect it in gentle shimmer. The wanderer lets the sight linger in his mind for a moment. Then he faces the road again. The plain stretches far, and its calm vastness invites steady progress. The group moves toward a low rise covered in pale grasses. The grass sways in a slow pattern shaped by the breeze. The breeze itself is delicate. It carries the scent of cool earth and distant dry plants. It brushes the travelers' cloaks and moves through the camel's fur with a quiet stroking motion. At the top of the rise, the travelers pause. They stand still, allowing the morning to settle around them. The world appears balanced. Nothing feels rushed. Nothing pulls them forward or holds them back. The plain simply exists in wide open shapes, resting beneath the endless sky. From this height, they see a thin line etched across the distant land. It is the continuation of the Silk Road. It curves in a gentle arc before disappearing into the soft haze. The line feels familiar and welcoming, like a calm voice calling without urgency. The travelers understand that this will be their path for many hours. They begin their descent. The sand beneath them shifts in smooth patterns. The camels walk carefully, their steps silent and steady. The air warms gradually, though the coolness of morning still clings to the ground. The travelers adjust their cloaks as the sun touches their shoulders in soft golden strokes. A cluster of weathered stones appears at the base of the slope. The stones form natural shapes that resemble small seats or resting points. The group stops near them. One traveler kneels and brushes sand from the surface of a flat stone. The stone is cool and smooth. He places his water flask upon it and drinks slowly. The wanderer drinks next. Then the others. They rest for a short time. Not to recover from effort, but to honor the quiet rhythm of the morning. The camels stand nearby with lowered heads. Their shadows fall softly beside them. One camel chews lazily on a few blades of grass. Another flicks its tail in slow, deliberate motions. The wanderer stands and walks a short distance away. He kneels and places his palm on the sand. The sand is cool but warming. It holds the memory of the night and the promise of the day. He closes his eyes and breathes deeply, allowing the land to speak in its silent way. Then he rises again and returns to the group. The travelers continue along the path. As they walk, the mist begins to lift. It rises into the air in thin, drifting layers. The sun warms its edges, turning it into a soft, glowing haze that moves upward and dissolves. The land becomes clearer. The shrubs take on defined shapes. The small hollows reveal their gentle curves. A faint distant shape emerges on the horizon. It might be a cluster of low trees. It might be the outline of a shallow valley. The travelers do not question it. The Silk Road often reveals its features gradually. The wanderer studies the shape for a moment, then resumes walking with calm certainty. The sun climbs higher. Its light spreads in smooth, bright layers, though the atmosphere remains quiet and soft. No sharp heat presses upon the land yet. The morning holds its calm. The wind remains gentle. The plain feels as though it is waking slowly, stretching quietly into the day. One traveler hums a quiet tune under his breath. The tune is simple, composed of long-held notes. It flows like a slow river. The sound drifts through the air, mixing with the silence in a way that feels natural. The wanderer listens without turning his head. A faint smile forms on his face. As they walk deeper into the plain, the ground becomes smoother. The sand holds fewer stones. The traces of past caravans appear in faint intersecting lines. Some lines are deep. Others are barely visible. They cross and fade in patterns shaped by many years of passage. The travelers follow the clearest of these paths. The breeze grows warmer. It carries the scent of sunlight on sand. The travelers breathe with steady rhythm. Their steps match one another in calm harmony. The camels move with the same ease, their long shadows drifting across the ground like slow wandering ribbons. The distant shape on the horizon grows slightly clearer. It becomes a cluster of low trees surrounding a shallow dip in the land. Perhaps a small oasis. Perhaps only a patch of shade. The travelers feel no urgency to reach it. The day will unfold at its own pace. The Silk Road asks only for attention and presence, not speed. They walk a little further, then pause once more as the breeze shifts direction. It carries a quiet rustling sound from somewhere ahead. Not a sharp sound. Only a soft, steady whisper. The wanderer lifts his head and listens. The others follow his gaze. The sound continues for a moment, then fades gently. The travelers share a quiet look. Not of concern. Only understanding. The land is alive in its own slow way. They resume walking. Their steps fall softly on the warming sand. The morning continues to open around them, embracing each new movement with calm, steady grace. And the Silk Road leads them onward into the quiet heart of the day. Midday quiet beneath the wide, pale sky. The morning continues its slow unfolding as the travelers move deeper into the wide open plain. The sun has risen higher now, though its warmth remains gentle. It spreads across the land in soft waves, never pressing too heavily. The sky opens into a wide pale blue that seems to stretch without end. A few thin clouds float across it, drifting like delicate threads drawn by an unseen hand. The travelers maintain their steady pace. Their steps fall lightly on the warming sand. The camels follow with calm assurance, their long necks swaying gently with each motion. Their shadows lengthen and shrink in smooth patterns as the land rises and falls. The stillness of the plain surrounds the group like a vast quiet sea. The distant cluster of low trees grows clearer as they approach. It is not a large oasis but a small collection of hardy shrubs and one taller tree that leans slightly to the east. The ground around the cluster dips gently, forming a shallow hollow where the sand mixes with darker soil. The travelers slow their pace as they near the edge of the hollow. A faint sound spreads through the air. It is the soft rustling of leaves brushed by the wind. The sound is light and almost musical. It feels like the kind of sound the plain has carried for centuries without changing. The travelers listen quietly. Their bodies relax into the calm of the moment. The wanderer steps closer to the edge of the hollow. He kneels and places his palm on the ground. The soil feels cool beneath the surface, holding the memory of the night. He brushes a few grains of sand from his fingertips and looks toward the tree. Its branches reach upward in slow curving lines. The leaves shimmer faintly in the mild breeze. The group lowers their packs near a smooth stone that rests beside the shrubs. The stone is broad and shaped by time into a comfortable resting place. One traveler leans against it and exhales a quiet sigh. Another kneels nearby and opens his water flask. The cool water glistens in the light as he pours a small amount into a shallow wooden cup. The wanderer drinks in calm, steady sips. The others follow. The camels settle near the shade of the leaning tree. They fold their legs beneath their bodies and lower their heads. Their breath comes in deep, slow waves. One camel nibbles at the leaves on a low branch. The leaves sway gently in response but do not resist. The motion adds to the quiet rhythm of the hollow. The travelers rest for a while. They close their eyes or gaze upward at the pale sky. The breeze carries the faint scent of dry earth and sunlight. It moves across their faces with a soothing touch. The ground beneath them warms slowly, offering steady support. No one speaks. Words would feel out of place in this quiet midday hour. After some time, the wanderer rises and walks a few steps beyond the hollow. He looks out across the plain. The land stretches into soft undulating waves. The horizon blends gently with the sky. A white haze begins to form in the distance. It shifts upward and downward like a calm mirage. The wanderer watches the haze with quiet attention. Then he turns back to the group and gives a small nod. The travelers gather their belongings. They secure their packs onto the camels with smooth, practiced motions. The camels rise slowly, one by one, their long legs unfolding with steady grace. A faint drumming sound comes from the sand as their feet settle firmly into the ground. The travelers adjust their cloaks and prepare to continue their journey. Before they leave, one traveler reaches out and touches the trunk of the leaning tree. The bark is rough yet warm. The tree stands firm despite the endless winds that shape the plain. It offers shade without expecting anything in return. The traveler lowers his hand and steps back. The tree remains still. The group begins walking again. Their steps fall in soft measured patterns. The hollow fades behind them as they move onward. The land opens once more into wide empty stretches. The sky brightens further. The sun continues its gradual climb. The warmth remains gentle, never forcing the travelers to quicken their pace. A faint shimmering band appears on the far horizon. It moves slightly as the heat rises from the ground. It creates the illusion of distant water. The travelers know this phenomenon well. They do not rush toward it. They simply observe its beauty in the calm midday light. One traveler hums a low tune. The wanderer listens with a faint smile. The melody spreads across the plain in soft drifting waves. It disappears into the warm air and returns as a gentle whisper. The tune feels like part of the land itself. As the day advances, the travelers continue in silence. Their minds drift. Their bodies move with steady ease. The camels walk with quiet confidence. The Silk Road lies before them in a long pale line that bends and shifts but never ends abruptly. They reach a slight rise in the land where the sand gathers into smoother curves. The wanderer pauses and looks ahead. A new shape has appeared on the horizon. It is faint but distinct. Perhaps a distant ridge. Perhaps a group of rocks. The travelers adjust their course slightly to meet it. The air grows warmer but not harsh. The breeze moves with a lighter touch. The land radiates a soft heat that feels like the gentle breathing of the plain. The travelers breathe in this warmth. It settles within them in calm, steady pulses. As they walk, a flock of birds crosses the sky above. The birds move in a smooth arc, rising and descending with quiet precision. Their wings cast faint moving shadows on the sand. The travelers look up briefly, then return their attention to the road. The birds fade into the bright haze, leaving only a trace of motion behind. The travelers continue. Their shadows follow them closely. The sun leans slightly toward the western sky. The colors of the land shift into softer tones. The heat eases into gentle warmth. The plain spreads in endless calm. And the Silk Road continues to guide them forward, one slow, patient step at a time. The long road returns to silence. The sun leans slowly toward the western edge of the sky as the travelers move onward across the plain. The heat of the day has softened into a mild warmth that rests lightly on their shoulders. The air carries a quiet stillness. It is not the stillness of night, but the gentle pause that comes when the day begins to loosen its hold. Ahead, the land rises in a gradual slope. The Silk Road follows this rise in a pale, winding line that glows softly under the afternoon light. The travelers walk at the same calm pace they have held since morning. Their feet sink slightly into the sand with each step. The camels follow behind them, steady and unhurried, their long shadows stretching and folding across the ground. As they reach the top of the slope, a new view opens before them. In the distance, the land narrows into a shallow valley. Near the center of that valley, a small settlement rests in the quiet light. It is not large. A few low buildings of earth and stone gather near a cluster of trees. A thin column of smoke rises straight into the sky, undisturbed by wind. The sight feels gentle, like a soft answer to a long unspoken question. The wanderer stops for a moment at the crest of the slope. He studies the distant settlement. His eyes follow the slow spiral of smoke, then trace the outline of the trees that surround the buildings. He feels no rush to arrive. The road has taught him that the approach is as much a part of the journey as the destination. Still, there is a quiet comfort in knowing that the day will end in a place of shelter. The travelers continue down the slope. The sand becomes firmer as they descend. Small stones appear among the grains. Their steps create a soft crunch that blends with the rhythmic sound of the camels' hooves. The air cools by a small degree. The sun lowers another measure in the sky, deepening the color of the horizon. Along the way, they pass a series of weathered markers set at irregular intervals beside the road. Each marker is a simple stone, rounded at the top, half buried in the sand. Some bear faint carvings that time has nearly erased. Others are blank, their meaning carried only in their presence. The wanderer runs his fingers along one of them as he passes. The stone feels smooth and cool. It has seen many travelers, many caravans, many quiet footfalls beneath many different skies. The Silk Road bends gently toward the valley. As the group draws closer, the shapes of the buildings grow clearer. The walls are made of sun-dried earth, with edges softened by wind and years. The roofs are flat and low. A narrow path leads between them, worn smooth by countless steps. The cluster of trees at the center provides a patch of rich shade. Their leaves move lightly in the breeze, casting slow shifting patterns on the ground. The travelers pause at the edge of the settlement. No one hurries to speak. The place feels calm, as though it has been waiting without impatience. A few figures appear near the doorway of a low building. They move without haste, watching the caravan approach. Their clothing carries the same colors as the land. Browns, soft grays, warm sand tones. One of them raises a hand in greeting. The gesture is simple and steady. The wanderer steps forward and returns the greeting with a quiet nod. No long exchange of words is needed. The presence of the caravan and the open road tells its own story. The group leads the camels into the settlement. The air feels slightly cooler here, shaped by the shade of the trees and the shelter of the walls. In the center of the settlement, a small well sits within a low stone ring. A bucket rests beside it, its rope coiled neatly. The travelers are invited to draw water. One lowers the bucket, listening to the quiet splash as it meets the surface below. When the bucket returns, the water is clear and cool. Each traveler drinks slowly. The camels are led to a trough, where they drink with deep, steady gulps. The afternoon light softens further. It slips through the leaves in thin beams that dance across the ground. The air carries the scent of earth, smoke, and distant cooking. A pot simmers near one of the doorways. The sound of the gentle boil mixes with the rustle of leaves and the low murmur of quiet voices. The settlement has its own rhythm, but it is not so different from that of the road. Both are built on patience and steady breath. The travelers are shown a place near the trees where they can rest. They remove their packs and set them down beside the trunks. The ground here is firm and cool. A few woven mats are brought out and laid in a loose circle. The wanderer sits upon one of them, feeling the softness beneath him and the solidness of the earth below. He can feel the road still humming in his legs, a gentle echo of the long miles behind them. As the sun continues to sink, the sky takes on deeper shades. Pale gold turns into amber. Amber shifts into muted rose. The clouds along the horizon catch the last of the light and hold it in long, quiet bands. The buildings of the settlement glow briefly, then fade into gentle shadow. Lamps are lit, one by one, casting warm circles of light near the doorways. The travelers share a simple meal with the people of the settlement. Warm bread, tender grains, and a stew made from roots and herbs. The flavors are mild and grounding. No one speaks loudly. The conversations rise and fall like soft ripples in a calm pool. Even laughter, when it appears, flows in gentle tones. The wanderer listens more than he speaks. He lets the quiet comfort of the place settle over him. When the meal is finished, the lamps burn lower. The sky darkens into deep blue. The first stars appear above the rooftops, glimmering in steady points. The air grows cooler, carrying the faint scent of the plain beyond the valley. The travelers lie back on their mats, their bodies relaxing into the peaceful weight of the day. The wanderer turns his gaze toward the narrow opening of the valley, where the Silk Road continues beyond the settlement. He can no longer see its line in the dark, but he knows it is there. It runs across plains and hills, between stones and springs, through caravanserais and quiet clearings. It connects distant lands with a thread of patient footsteps and soft-spoken exchanges. For now, the road rests outside the valley. Within the settlement, time slows. The sounds of the day fade. A door closes gently. A quiet voice finishes a final sentence. A pot is set aside. The wind settles into a low murmur among the leaves. The camels sleep, their breaths rising and falling in long calm waves. The wanderer closes his eyes. The memory of the journey drifts through his thoughts as a series of gentle images. Morning mist over sand. The cool shade of weathered stones. Lantern light swaying in a silent valley. The long soft line of the horizon. Each memory settles like a feather, one upon another, forming a quiet layer of rest. The night deepens. The last of the lamps are extinguished. The sky arches over the small settlement and the endless road beyond. Somewhere out on the plain, the Silk Road continues under the same stars. It will be there tomorrow, and the day after, and long after these travelers have moved on. But for this moment, the journey has found a pause. The road, the travelers, and the quiet land all rest together in the same gentle silence. And in that silence, the world feels as if it is breathing in peace.